didn't get a chance to make a spoof video last fall, and I kind of enjoy those. So I was thinking this might be a good one to have make a little fun of myself for everyone's entertainment, and a little bit of educational benefit as well. And here's where I thought we could have some fun with this. So I'm going to kick it off with a reenactment of how I found myself in the situation I'm in right now. In this video, I try to kind of capture where things are at in the aviary. It sounds kind of calm right now, actually, which is nice. But I thought you might enjoy identifying all of the red flags in the video footage that I'm going to show you. Oh, you guys need more. And you don't get to count the red flag that said I had no idea that I had a nest going on, I had no idea there were eggs in that nest, and I had no idea that there were actually chicks in the aviary. So those three you can't count. But everything else you can count as red flags of why I am an absolute idiot finch. Not finch keeper per se, but definitely I am not a finch breeder. So if you have been watching this channel, you understand I am not a breeder of finches. I am a learner-abouter of finches, and sometimes I even fail at that. While you are watching that and counting up the red flags, I'm going to try to figure out if I have any more active actual eggs. But first I've got to fill that feeder. So I think, here we go. I will warn you, it's a long video because I found it really interesting to watch all the dynamics between the birds, and I cut out a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't think anybody else would be interested in. Otherwise it would have gone on for hours and hours and hours, but it's still a long video. Okay, let's start with the gold-breasted waxbills. There are two pair in the aviary. One pair has chicks that are, at this point, about 4 days away from fledging. And the video you saw was the dad gathering nesting material. This is the mom. She looks like she's out foraging. Gold-breasted are pretty good at hunting around for little bugs, which is probably why the chicks did so well, even though I was not explicitly providing live food. It's possible that mom and dad are building a second nest site, but here's the thing. That is definitely daddy, but that is not the mom. So that's beginning to look like I'm going to have genetically unknown chicks. Why does all of a sudden it sound like the quail finches are laughing at me? Maybe nothing will come of this. Lots of the other birds are interested in this site. And usually the gold-breasted don't build their own nest. They kind of take over a little penthouse on somebody else's nest site. So maybe they're just playing house. Well, maybe they just won't, they won't lay. So they're just, building a nest, but not actually following through on it. The mom is taking really good care of the chicks, so maybe dad has partnered up with the second female. But meanwhile, on the other side of the aviary is the second male and the same female. And this looks to me like it's really typical behavior where they're interested more in the space between the reed ball and the foliage. But I can also see some burlap inside the reed ball. So somebody might be building in the ball itself, and they're contemplating, piggybacking on that. So I'm going to have to set up the camera and see who might be building inside of the nest. I'm just watching to see if anybody else kind of objects to them hanging around that nest site. Well, that sure would be neat if it was a greenback twin spot nest. They would be able to share space pretty well. We've done it before. Okay, we'll have to come back to that one and see what's going on there. Meanwhile, back on the other side of the original side, there's another nest ball. That seems pretty interesting to these guys. I am keeping pretty close tabs on these sweet waxbills because I have heard they can be very aggressive toward each other in breeding season. So I have concluded that I do have a sweet nest up on the shelf. And I have 3 other pairs in the aviary. So I'm going to try to catch some footage on that burlap pile and see if anybody else is collecting. But right now I don't think there's any other nest. Just gratuitous footage of these sweet waxbills playing in the water. They're just such charming birds. I'm so glad I have a chance to work with them. Okay, so anyway, back to the burlap pile. I have set my camera up and then I left the aviary. So trying to kind of see who might be gathering material, and in particular I'm looking to see if anybody's building a new nest or a second nest. This is the male who has scored a feather, and he is lining the existing nest, and he has added more burlap material to it now that there is burlap to add, that he doesn't have to scavenge. And the only reason I can tell it's the male that has been building on the shelf is because of looking at the color of the bands. It's really hard to see, so I guess I'm gonna keep an eye out for if I see a second male that might be collecting burlap, or try to keep track of which direction they're flying. Of course, I'm not in the aviary at the moment. You can see this guy has a black band, so that's the dad. So I'm looking at this footage sort of after the fact. And cool, there is a second male collecting. And I can't see the band color. Shoot. The other thing I'm watching for is the Swedes love the running water. So anytime the stream runs, which is the actual reason that I reset up the stream, or the water bowls, they can't resist playing in the water. But I'm trying to see if I see the female who is supposed to be sitting on eggs by now, and I do not see her. So I'm thinking that she is in fact up in the nest. These are mostly males here. There's a better view. There's the purple female. There's the yellow female. That's the black female, and I do not see the red female. So that's cool. That's good news. And boy, I'm not really seeing any pushiness whatsoever, which makes me very, very, very happy because I need birds to get along. Okay, but I digress. I got distracted. Back to the chaos that is breeding season. So what about the twin spots? Several pairs of twin spots in the aviary.
And unfortunately, it is also very busy in the aviary. So the chances of them being confident enough to breed are about 0. But you never know. They are in breeding condition. You can see the brood patch on this male. You may have seen in one of the other clips where the twin spot started to come down to the burlap pile, but the sweet waxbill was there and he bailed on it. That's because they're very, very shy and very easily overwhelmed by higher energy birds. Now that everybody is done with the pile, he can come down and do his thing. But if you were a competent breeder, you would set them up in a different situation, obviously. There's a lot of futzing going on, but I'm trying to see if he takes it anywhere. So it looks like he cuts back across to the north side of the aviary. And the camera's kind of peeking around the corner. This is a view that I can't see from where I normally sit. And hence, that's why they hang out over there. So you'll see a couple of the twin spots. But I don't see, normally I would see nesting material drifted down onto the ground if they were trying to build. There are no nest sites over here. But that wouldn't stop them from trying to build in some little nook or cranny. But I don't see anything hanging in the trees anywhere. So, So what I think I'll do is I will grab another nest ball and I will put it over here, since this is where they want to hang out anyway. And often I do that in the flight cages. When they have a corner that they hide in and they feel most comfortable, that's where I put the nest site. So I'll do that and see if maybe I can just capture the moment with them. Well, there is a lot of futzing going on here, but in the end, he does not leave with any nesting material. Although, that's one of the females, so that's a good sign. Okay, well, I'm going to go with just futzing. When they're seriously building a nest, they're like a robot. Move a lot of volume of material really quickly. So, let's move on. I happen to also catch one of the orange cheek waxbills, kind of futzing around. I have 2 in the aviary. I do not believe they're a pair. I've never seen any courtship behavior. They're really wonderful little waxbills. They're gorgeous little birds. And one of the few waxbill species I have never kept before. Here's a little bit better view of the orange cheek waxbills. My 2 birds actually came from Puerto Rico, where they are an invasive species. So I think that's kind of interesting to see what a wild type Puerto Rican orange-cheeked waxbill looks like. And it turns out they're the ones that have been building a nest inside this reed ball behind here. So we'll come back to that and see whether anything comes out of that. Again, I don't think they're a pair, but I don't really know what their sexes are, so I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so that then brings us to the black-cheeked waxbills. What are they up to? Well, my black-cheeked waxbills came from Europe, and they are on a spring breeding cycle, and it's quite early for them, so they would normally be breeding, more like in March, April timeframe. So I don't really expect too much activity out of them. But they are also a very curious species, so anytime I put in a nest site, they're going to go investigate it. Still, I don't really have a strong feeling that they're doing anything. I'm not catching them at the burlap, not hearing any of their courtship calls or seeing any of the displays. And then, all of a sudden, it looks like there's a nest that is very black-cheeked-like. And it doesn't quite have a tunnel yet, so it might be just a roosting nest, and it might not even be their nest. So you can see now how that nest ball is solid, but that's not the one I'm talking about. The one I'm talking about is on the other side of the aviary. So then, this is another nest site, and you can see it's very dense. Like you can't see through it. And here's one of the black-cheeked waxbills. I'm like, That is another black-cheeked waxbill. Now these are clipped, so keep in mind there's not that many all at the nest all at once. But that behavior of flying up into it like that, there's a nest. There's an entry on the other side. And boy, that is very black-cheeked waxbill-like behavior. So either they took over a greenback twin spot nest, or they built this one on the sly, and I never saw them moving material? Maybe? I'm not really sure. But it doesn't have a tunnel entrance yet, so which is a difference between the greenback twin spots will build the dome nest with a side entrance, but they don't build a downward-facing tunnel like the lavenders do and the black-cheeked waxbills do. So, yeah, I don't know what's up with that. Looks suspicious. Now, here's another guy I haven't talked about, or gal. That's a black-rumped waxbill. I have just one in the aviary. I was gifted 2, but it turns out only one ended up being shipped from New York. And so he or she lives happily in the aviary. But the thing about singletons is that there's always this hybridization concern. So you have to keep an eye on that. I think I've accounted for all the species in the aviary except the Forbes parrot finches. Both Paul and Molly are going through a molt, so you won't see Molly's kind of tucked away behind there. They're dismantling the aviary, which is what they normally do. There's Molly. And anyway, so you won't see much of them because they're just mostly resting, staying out of the fray. Oh, and I forgot the quail finches too. So I'll get back to them in a second here. So you can see by the end of the day, the orange cheeks have built up quite a ball of material inside this burlap. That's why I have such huge piles of burlap, because all of these birds build pretty extensive nest balls. I have like an hour of footage of this exact view. There is so much stuff going on, so much interaction between the birds, but I'm going to spare you all of that. But having said that, the nest that you see is against the far wall, which is 16 feet away. Then you can see the hanging nest that I think is a black-cheek nest, and that's about 8 feet away. So I want to show you a different side view perspective of what's going on with that thing, that you can sort of see it moving around occasionally. Let me show you what that looks like. Because I moved the camera to the side trying to figure out what is happening. So that's that hovering that you sort of saw in the other clip. But watch this. So that explains why there's no downward-facing tunnel. I think a pair of swees took over this nest. I don't know what's going on. But I guess that just leaves the quail finches. Wisely, they're just staying out of all of this nonsense. And I didn't think anything much was going on with my pairs of the quail finches in the aviary, but I was wrong. And sure enough, I have I can't say that's a nest. It might just be a little roosting or a hidey hole. But anyway, see that little thing right there in the center? That's a quail finch nest. I still feel like she's laughing at me.
chicks in this one. Fully lined nest, no eggs in that one. Oh, it's just a tunnel. No eggs in that one. Two eggs in that one. That's the second gold-rusted nest. Ooh, hello. We have one egg in that. That's the orange cheek nest. I did not think I had a pair. I still don't think I have a pair, but I might have a pair. Okay, no eggs in that one. Is that everybody? As far as I know, that is everybody. Okay, so let's compare notes. How many red flags for disreputable breeding did you catch? Let's see, let me go back. I have 2 pairs of the same species, both breeding in inaccessible places where I cannot band the birds. So I'll have gold-breasted wax-billed chicks. Hopefully that will be unrelated, but I probably won't know who is who. They are, actually that may not be true. These guys are probably just starting incubating. So they are those chicks, if they do hatch, are a lot younger than those. So I may actually be able to band those guys before the other full-breasted. All right, so that may not count. That could be like a yellow flag. There's that. Then, let's see, I have a single bird, unknown sex, without a partner, closely related to other birds. So hybridization is typically not a problem, for me at least, as long as my birds have a suitable partner. But it is much more of a possibility if there is a bird that does not have a suitable partner. So the black-rumped waxbill possibly could, be the parent of one of those eggs, for example. Let's see, there's that. The sweet waxbill parentage would be suspect as well, although I only have one nest with eggs in it. That one does not have any eggs, that one does not have any eggs. Black-cheeked waxbill is the problem to solve for me, so I don't really count that as a red flag because they are a different subspecies than a very similar species that was brought in last fall and widely distributed to other breeders in the US. But I'm not sure how many people even care or know or could recognize. So I've decided to keep any of the black-cheeked waxbills that I breed and not risk getting them out into the population, because if, once you place those birds, you don't know where they go from there. It's kind of like sharing a photo on social media. So regardless of what happens with any pairs, the only black-cheeked nest I have is up here. And there's no eggs in that one. Let's see. Oh, none of the birds are conditioned. That's why I have like a clutch of 2 eggs up there. They're all out of whack. So none of them are in condition to breed, so fertility won't be managed properly the way it would be with the real breeder. The genetic pairings are bird's choice. They're not managed by me. I'm not breeding for anything specific other than wild type and for genetic diversity. the food situation, like let's take the greenback twin spots, because I'm feeding live food for those chicks, and I'll have to basically continue, that means the birds that are not feeding chicks are getting fat. That's the sweetie male. It's the highest pitch, prettiest little sound, but it's hard to hear. So they're going to be fat. They won't be able to breed, most likely, even if I wanted them to, which I would. I would like it if you did. It's overcrowded in here. Too much energy for example, for that species, so that's not dialed in for them to be successful. I have birds stealing each other's nests, apparently. Is that it? Did you get any other ones? I think, let's call that good. Let's call that enough disreputable breeding practices for one video. Thanks for watching.